Trump also said in his interview there are several people in his administration he may replace. Do we know who that may be?
That's right. President Trump said he wants Kirstjen Nielsen, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, to be much tougher. He also highlighted weaknesses in his Chief of Staff, John Kelly. And while President Trump said that he is happy with both of them, he made it clear that it's possible they could both move on.
Errol Barnett at the White House. Errol, thank you. Nearly 2 weeks after the midterm elections, a number of key races were decided this weekend, most notably the U.S. Senate race in Florida. Republican Governor Rick Scott edged out Democratic incumbent Bill Nelson. Here's Tony Dokoupil.
Well, things worked out a little differently than Grace and I had hoped.
Democrat Bill Nelson conceded the election to Republican Rick Scott, formally ending the incumbent senator's campaign. In a statement, Governor Rick Scott said he thanked his opponent for his years of public service and that it's time to get to work in Washington.
We are in adjournment.
A round of applause on Sunday ended 13 days of political drama in the Florida governor's and Senate races, which included lawsuits, a lot of political rhetoric, and multiple recounts. Broward County's election supervisor Brenda Snipes admits there is room for improvement.
It's a big operation, but there are some things that need to be tweaked on all sides in terms of the processes that make up elections.
Democratic nominee Andrew Gillum conceded Saturday night to Republican Ron DeSantis.
Nobody wanted to be governor more than me. This was not just about an election cycle. This was about creating the kind of change in this state that really allows for the voices of everyday people to show up again.
As Florida starts to certify their election results, California is nearing a historic completion of its own. Democrat Gil Cisneros won California's 39th congressional district, sealing a Democratic majority in Orange County and turning what was once a Republican stronghold and the birthplace of former President Richard Nixon entirely blue. The party now also controls every statewide elected position.
And believe it or not, the midterm elections are still not over. Elaine, President Trump will be traveling to Mississippi next Monday for a race between incumbent Cindy Hyde-Smith and Democrat Mike Espy. Voters will decide that race November 27th.
All right, Tony Dokoupil, thank you. In the Asian city of Macau, there was a horrific crash Sunday in a Formula 3 Grand Prix race. A car driven by a German teenager went flying. She clipped another car on a turn and was launched into the air at 170 miles per hour. Incredibly, the 17-year-old German racer survived. Sophia Flörsch posted a tweet saying she is fine, but will be going into surgery Monday for her fractured spine. A report about the potential hiring of the NFL's first female head coach was officially sacked on this football Sunday. ESPN reported that Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State under President George W. Bush, was being considered to become the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. The team quickly threw a flag praising Rice's qualifications, but saying she has not been discussed. Rice issued a statement saying, in part, "I love my Browns, and I know they will hire an experienced coach to take us to the next level. I do hope that the NFL will start to bring women into the coaching profession. By the way, I'm not ready to coach, but I would like to call a play or two next season if the Browns need ideas." Her name has also been floated for a higher office, NFL commissioner. British Prime Minister Theresa May is in a fight for her political life. May is battling to save her job, while the so-called Brexit deal has members of her government running for the exits. Jonathan Vigliotti is in London.
Prime Minister Theresa May warned on Sunday that a change in leadership wouldn't make Britain's divorce from the EU, known as Brexit, any easier.
What it will do is bring in a degree of uncertainty. That's uncertainty for people and their jobs. I'm clear people voted for us to leave. We will leave, and we'll leave on the 29th of March 2019.
The defiant prime minister appears to have survived a week where support for both her proposed deal and her ability to see it through were questioned. The drama began on Wednesday during a tense 5-hour meeting of the cabinet where ministers reluctantly agreed to sign off on the draft, which critics say keeps the UK financially bound to the EU. But the following day, several ministers quit May's government, including Dominic Raab, her chief Brexit negotiator. May addressed the public as some called for her to step down.
Leadership is about taking the right decisions, not the easy ones.
While her defiant stance has calmed many, others within her party are calling on May to resign, attempting to put into motion what's known as a no-confidence vote.
You have streams of talent within the Conservative Party who would be very capable of leading a proper Brexit.
Lawmaker Jacob Rees-Mogg may have declared no confidence in Theresa May, but so far, few have joined him publicly.
And there are more hurdles ahead. The deal needs to be signed off by British Parliament before a final draft can be approved by the European Parliament and the 27 member states. The true fallout of an exodus like this is unknown, but it's fair to say such uncertainty is likely to impact financial markets around the world, including the U.S. Elaine?
Jonathan Vigliotti, thanks. Coming up, with thousands of Central American migrants getting closer to the United States, Mexican authorities set up a blockade at the border. You're streaming CBSN. A U.S. official tells CBS News the CIA believes Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. President Trump said he expects to get a full report by Tuesday. The Saudi government continues to deny the prince knew anything about the murder of the Washington Post journalist. Last week, the U.S. announced sanctions on 17 Saudi individuals, not including bin Salman. On Fox News Sunday, the president was asked about the possibility the Crown Prince may have lied to him. He says he's still weighing his options.
He told me that, I would say, maybe 5 times at different points.
But what if he's lying?
As recently as a few days ago.
Do you just live with it because you need him?
Well, will anybody really know? All right, will anybody really know? But he did have certainly people that were reasonably close to him that were probably involved. You saw we put on very heavy sanctions, massive sanctions on a large group of people from Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, we do have an ally, and I want to stick with an ally that in many ways has been very good.
The State Department said this weekend no final conclusion has been reached. In a statement, spokesperson Heather Nauert wrote in part, "There remain numerous unanswered questions with respect to the murder of Mr. Khashoggi." She added the U.S. will hold responsible those connected to the murder while maintaining a strategic relationship with the kingdom. William Inboden joins us now from Austin, Texas. He is the executive director at the Clements Center for National Security and former senior director for strategic planning on the National Security Council. William, thanks for joining us. What do we know about how the CIA reached its conclusion?
Well, I haven't read this particular assessment, but from having read a number of other CIA assessments in the past, is probably a combination of human intelligence sources, electronic intercepts, and then intelligence shared by our liaison partners in the region, especially Turkey and Israel.
Well, the president has demanded to know the whereabouts of Khashoggi's remains. There are conflicting reports about what could have happened to the body. Will we ever know, you think?
We may well never know, but I think we do know enough information to be about as certain as we can be of anything here, which is that Mohammed bin Salman did order the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi.
Well, the U.S. imposed sanctions on 17 Saudis believed to have had ties to Khashoggi's death. Do you foresee further repercussions from the White House? And if so, what are the options?
I think we will, partly because the White House has lost the diplomatic initiative here. They should have taken much stronger action much sooner. Within a few days after the assassination, we all had a pretty good idea of what was going on here. But because of President Trump's desire to maintain cordial relations with Mohammed bin Salman and his own skepticism about the intelligence, he lost the initiative and has been way behind the curve. So these 17 Saudi mid-level officials who are sanctioned, that's really just kind of a slap on the wrist. And we're seeing Congress now showing more leadership on this. Future measures could include suspension or reduction in arms sales, perhaps reducing our diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia, such as expelling the Saudi ambassador, or other efforts to isolate them in the region. I think those are long overdue.
Well, on the White House's relationship with Saudi Arabia, the Trump administration says it is committed to keeping strong ties with the Saudis. This weekend, Vice President Mike Pence said the White House is looking, quote, for a way to preserve the relationship with Saudi Arabia. Remind us what is at stake here.
Well, it is a very important relationship. And even though I've called for stronger measures against the Saudis, I am also committed to the U.S.-Saudi relationship. I mean, equities we have in that relationship include energy supplies, which are so crucial to the global economy, counterterrorism. We get very important counterterrorism intelligence from the Saudis. Our efforts to contain and roll back Iran's regional mischief is another part of it. And then the Trump administration will soon be unveiling its peace plan for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the Saudis will be key players in that too. But what we often forget is the Saudis need us more than we need the Saudis, and the United States has more leverage here to recalibrate the relationship with Saudi Arabia. I don't want to see it ended. I just think it needs to be recalibrated to be more balanced, and where Mohammed bin Salman no longer feels like he has a blank check for this very inappropriate behavior.
You mentioned the Middle East peace efforts. The president's son-in-law and advisor, Jared Kushner, has put a lot of focus on building relations with Saudi Arabia. What could this mean for his efforts at peace in the Middle East?
Well, it certainly throws a bit of a monkey wrench into it. Again, we won't know for sure until we actually see what the peace plan is and how the Israelis and the Palestinians respond. But part of the problem seems to have been Jared Kushner's rather naive early embrace of Mohammed bin Salman, again, giving him a blank check for all sorts of bad behavior, including the war in Yemen, the blockade of Qatar, kidnapping the Lebanese prime minister, cutting off diplomatic relations with Canada. So we've already seen the consequences of of this unconditional embrace of the Saudis, and that in turn is going to diminish our leverage with the Israeli-Palestinian peace plan going forward. So I do worry that that this could really hurt that.
And William, the Saudis repeatedly offered contradictory explanations for what happened to Khashoggi. Is that significant when weighing potential repercussions?
I think so, because it shows that the Saudis don't respect the United States. The fact that they thought they could get away with this, prevaricating, misleading, really lying to one of their most important partners. And the fact that they haven't had more consequences to that is very troubling. But it also shows that I think that's a further piece of evidence that Mohammed bin Salman was behind this, and they just didn't want to come clean. And I think we should have insisted on him coming clean much, much sooner. And then that would have given us the chance to recalibrate the relationship and preserve these other equities we have.
Well, the president